Hey everybody, Omar here, the Knife Shark Guy, and I am back on another unfortunate coronavirus day. I'm sure all of you guys are pretty depressed about the situation going on in the country. There doesn't seem to be any relief, and it doesn't seem to be letting up. Myself, I'm dealing with it right now. I decided to just do a video and kind of talk with you guys sort of to get rid of the psychological angst that this entire coronavirus thing has done to all of us. So I thought I'd do a little knife discussion today on and highlight a knife maker. And the knife maker I have decided to highlight and talk about is Chris Reeve. So let's talk about this guy, Chris Reeve. First of all, let's take a look at the way he packages his knives. You've never seen packaging like this. I mean, when you get a Chris Reeve knife, his packaging alone tells you that he wants you to know that you're getting something special, right? This is the Chris Reeve Large Sebenza 21 box, by the way. Just wanted to show this in case any of you guys thinking about getting a Chris Reeve knife. Again, this is not going to be a full blown overview of Chris Reeve knives. It's just going to be a quick discussion. So anyway, inside the box, I've never seen anything like this. You get this little folder in the Chris Reeve box, and inside the Chris Reeve box there's a bunch of stuff inside, which is obviously you're going to get the little postcard registration card, right, with the stuff in it, which is really kind of cool. Put that aside. You get a couple of stickers here. There's one sticker right here, really cool, right? And there's another sticker, right? Chris Reeve knife right there. And then this is kind of cool. You get a little information card that tells you all about the knife and how it was packaged, how it was made somewhat. Basically, he's just saying hello, welcome, and thank you so much for purchasing a Chris Reeve knife. That's what this is. And then inside the box is the most important thing of all, which is basically the Chris Reeve birth card, which is what this is. So basically, you can see right on the knife, right on the card, it gives you the name of the knife, the type of inlay that you got, and it also gives you the date that the knife was made. So this is sort of like the certificate of authenticity. Basically, they call it a birth card, when the knife was actually born, which I think is kind of cool. So I mean, as you can see, packaging with Chris Reeve is just spectacular, right? I've never seen anybody do anything like that. Certainly, I don't know of any custom knife makers that go this far to package one of his knives. So these are all the Chris Reeve knives that I've owned. I've been through that experience 6 times, as you guys can see. I've got a couple of knives in here that are anodized. So when you buy, if you're looking at these knives, you're not going to get the knives. If you're going to order these knives, you're not going to get them this way. These were actually anodized and done by a friend. I'm going to talk about that in a second. So Chris Reeve knives. Somewhere down the line, you were going to come across a Chris Reeve knife, because maybe you are currently in your knife collecting, maybe you're into ZTs, right? And you love ZTs, and then you're going to probably get into maybe a Benchmade somewhere on down the line. And these knives all seem, and this isn't in any way putting anything down, but these knives all seem to have an expectation when you buy them. You know they're going to be smooth. You know they're going to be solid. You know they're always going to be perfectly well centered. You pretty much already have an idea in your head what the knife is going to be like when you buy it, because they're all, not that they're all pretty much the same, but you've already got an idea of what a good quality knife is if you're into high-end knives like this. Then somewhere down the road, you're going to come across Chris Reeve. And the reason I'm having this discussion is simply because you come across Chris Reeve, you're going to have to basically take what you feel about these knives, these great high-end quality knives, and your expectation for these great high-quality end knives, and throw it all out the window, wipe your brain, and pretty much wipe your brain slate clean, whatever you think of what a knife is. turn it off and just basically change. You're going to basically not use the qualities that are in this knife, okay, or in either one of these types of knives to describe these knives, because these knives are made completely different. So let's talk about that. First of all, Chris Reeve, in my opinion, is one of these knife makers who is limited and not limited. He's in a sense that the designs of his knives never change. There's where the limit is. Okay. As you guys know, the Sebenza 21 is no longer being made. It is now discontinued, and he changed over to the Sebenza 31. And it was to celebrate, you know, pretty much the anniversary of the Sebenza 21, right? So, thinking about that for a second, there really wasn't much of a change between the Sebenza 21 and the Sebenza 31. The only thing he did on that knife was he added a ceramic ball interface on the knife, and then he also changed the way the inlays look. Instead of being two inlays, he made it one solid inlay going across, and that's basically it. However, the action between the two are exactly the same. I don't think there's any difference between the action of a Sebenza 21 and the action of a Sebenza 31. It's exactly the same. However, so that's the limitation of Chris Reeve's knives. The limitless part of Chris Reeve knives is I don't think you can go through every rendition of the Sebenza 21 in your entire lifetime. Will you ever even go through all of them? I mean, this is only just one out of I don't know how many different designs of this knife that he made. There's even one right now. I believe it's the Sebenza 31, like the lunar landing. I mean, he just keeps going and going and going with the aesthetics on this thing. This is just basically one of the designs. If you're not interested in getting a plain Chris Reeve Sebenza, you can get the varieties that he does aesthetically. I don't think there's any other custom knife maker that can compete with him. I mean, there are literally hundreds, I'm going to say hundreds of Sebenza 21 designs out there that you can get. There's no way you can collect them all right? So in that sense, he is limitless. Again, another point of limiting is the steel. He only puts out one steel and one steel only. 35 SVN, and that's the only steel that he uses. The reason that's the only steel that he uses is because he actually developed that steel with Crucible. That was his idea. To use S35VN, and he wanted something that was better than S30V, which was the highest graded steel at the time. So he thought, well, I want to find something that's a little bit better than S30V, so he developed S35VN along with Crucible, and now that is the only steel that he uses on all of his knives. So again, there's a little limitation there. Right? Another limitation of Chris Reeve knives is he doesn't do ball bearings. All of his knives are phosphor bronze washers, phosphor bronze only. The smoothness in his knife, his philosophy is less is more when it comes to action. So basically, he just strictly believes in the idea of less is more when it comes to the action on his knives. Third, he also does things differently. The centering on his knives are done completely different than anybody else's knives. So case in point, let me show you. So most knife companies, when they do centering on knives, they make adjustments on their knives to get the centering just right. Chris Reeve doesn't do it that way. He actually makes the handles of his knife nice and flat as he can get them, gets them perfectly even, and then basically he takes the two sides of the knife and just basically, whoop, nobody died, basically presses them together in his own machine, and that's how you get the centering as perfect as it is. And it's always going to be perfect on a Chris Reeve knife because that's the way he does it. Now, as far as smoothness on his knives go in action, it's each one of these I've experienced from my own opinion. Basically, all the knives only run on washers, right? But each one of the knives actually have a different type of smoothness. I've come to realization that, and there's reasons for that. So he's actually changed the washer system inside the knife, which is why the action on a knife on a Sebenza 21 would be different than it is on an Nkosi. So that's kind of an interesting thing to think about. So let me show you how this works. So let me take this knife away. This is the Lumzon. I'll get to that in a minute. So when it comes to the action, the washer system inside his knives are they do vary. Okay, first of all, you have to understand something about the Sebenza 21. The washer system in this knife is kind of a little bit uneven. You have to understand, number one, the washer on the show side of the knife, or I guess I'm going to call it the show side of the knife, the washer system, the washer on that knife is actually, it's a medium-sized washer, okay? Unfortunately, on the lock side, the washer is smaller. So you've got one large washer on this side and one small washer on that side. So not that the action is uneven, but you're getting a different type of action. It's still smooth, but it's not the kind of smooth that you're thinking. This knife kind of has a smoothness almost of a spring assist in a way, but you can still feel how smooth the knife is when you use it. I mean, it is, it's smooth. It is smooth. However, it's not going to be the same expectation as, say, a ZT, because the ZT runs on ball bearings, so the action will not be that drop shot that you're looking for. It's going to be a little bit tighter than that. And basically, I guess what I'm saying is you're going to have to accept it, because that's the way Chris Reeve makes his knives. However, Chris Reeve does try to accommodate those that really enjoy that kind of action. First of all, I mean, if you look at Sebenza 21, there's only one thumb stud on this, right? On the other side, you can get one on the other side, but you have to order it, send the knife in, and then they would actually do that work for you, and then you'll have it on both sides. But for all intents and purposes, when you order the knife, you have to let them know whether you are a lefty or a righty, and he only puts it on one side of the knife on the Sebenza knife. So for a long time, it was just the Sebenza 21. That was it. That's all you had, just this. Then he decided to sort of change things up. It was the 25th anniversary of the Sebenza, so he decided to do the Sebenza 25. Now, for the Sebenza 25, the action is much smoother than on the 21, even though the 21 is the knife that everybody talks about. The Sebenza 25 kind of changed all that, okay? People still love the Sebenza 21 because of its classic look and its simplicity. However, to satisfy that world of people that like really nice action, he decided to invent his own version of what he thought really nice action is. So he came up with the idea of celebrating the Sebenza 21 and introducing the Sebenza 25. Now, the washer system in this knife is completely different than what you see in here. Now, basically, like I said, on the show side of the 21, the washer is, medium-sized, and then on the back side, it's a much smaller washer to accommodate the lock bar, okay? When it came to making the Sebenza 25, he decided to change that to satisfy the buying public. He made both of the washers on the show side and the lock side the same exact size, medium-sized. So now the action is a little bit better for those guys that kind of want that action, or they're like looking for that action on their knife. Mine is actually a little stiff because, believe it or not, my 25, I've never actually used it. It's a collector's piece to me. So, yeah, so he decided to have that put on his knife. So that's another change for Chris Reeve, right? So he does try to accommodate. A few years later, he came out with the Nkosi. Now, the smoothness on this knife is different than the smoothness on this knife. How is that possible? Well, if you take a look at the washer system, if we look at both these knives here, If I hold it up to the camera, you can see a little glimpse of the washer in that knife. You can see the phosphor bronze washer right there in the knife. It kind of sticks out a little bit, but you can see it. Moving on to the Inkosi, look how big and gigantic those oversized washers are. So obviously more surface area, you're going to get the action that you're looking for. The action is pretty much close to a ball bearing action knife, I gotta say. I mean, in my opinion, it is. And it's got that hydraulic feel that all of his knives have. Now, his washers are also different than a regular, well, not this knife, but a regular washer knife. Those are both ball bearing knives. I made a mistake. So, in regular washer knives, basically the washers are solid. All right, there's nothing nothing different about it. Basically, you oil the washer knife, and then the oil will whoosh around inside the pivot of the knife, and at some point, supposedly, all right, the knife will lose its action. On a Chris Reeve knife, the washer system is different. Imagine inside the knife, the washers in this knife actually have little holes in them to hold the lubricant, so that no matter what you do, no matter how many times you flick it, there's always going to be some amount of lubricant in the knife that keeps it as smooth as possible. So that's another invention of his. No one else does washers that way. So basically, it's like he took KPT ball bearing system and ditched the ball bearings and just filled each of the holes with oil and stuck them in his knife. That's what you can imagine. That's what's inside this knife, if you want to put it that way. So he does not do anything the same as other people do them. He's just there's just no comparison. There's just no comparison. Basically, you see a Chris Reeve knife, and it is what it is. I don't know how else to describe it. If this video fails in any way to describe what I'm trying to say about Chris Reeve, I do apologize. Because the man does do great, solid work. He's a man that lives in his own planet. And sometimes to be a success, you have to do that. For those people that don't particularly care for his work, and there are people out there that don't care for his work, that's okay. That's okay with all of us that love Chris Reeve knives, and that's what makes it so compelling. To find a guy that is able to pull people's, I don't know how to explain it, people's visions in such a way where you're being pulled either from one side or to the other and still be a success. I mean, I've never heard of anyone who is able to have a group of people that hate his work and a group of people that love his work, and he's still a success. He's still around today. Meanwhile, we've got ZT, and we've got Benchmade, and you've got Spyderco, and you've got Kai, all kind of circulating, doing whatever they're doing, making the changes to their knives. So basically these guys are basically responsible for moving the knife world forward, right? Then there's Chris Reeve, who says a knife is a knife, but a knife is a knife, and a knife can be great if it's done the way I do it. And if you like it, fantastic. If you don't like it, go back to wherever go back and find something else. He's okay with that. Sometimes it's okay to have classics stay around forever and not change. I think in today's world, we kind of need that. In an ever-changing world, it's always kind of nice to see something that's familiar, something that's fun, something you can just look at, know what it is. And I think that's pretty much what Chris Reeve knives represent. They represent a section of the world where you accept things are constantly going to change, but sometimes when things don't change, they can be great. It is possible to be great without moving on and changing so much. Because somewhere down the line, you're always going to move to something with a little bit more comfort. To the eye, to the hand, to everything. And I think that's pretty much what Chris Reeve represents, is that things can change, but they don't necessarily have to. So In my own opinion, yeah. Do I think Chris Reeve knives are worth it? Yes. As for all of you viewing people that are watching this video, my opinion, I think you need to give it a shot, or at least consider it if you're at that level where you're feeling you want something new, you want to try something different. Definitely go in and consider possibly purchasing a Chris Reeve knife if you can afford it. You guys know how expensive these knives are. They are not cheap. But if you're ready for that and you are ready to move on and experience something different, and you really want to experience something different, try a Chris Reeve knife. You're either going to love it or you're going to hate it, or you think it's overblown, or you think it's all talk. But if you've never held one or you never checked one out, you really should. Because there's value here, despite what you think. Number one, if anything in his knives break, okay, that's another thing too. I didn't get to talk about. If you're using his knife in regular fashion and his knives break, he does have what's called a spot treatment. So basically, over time, your knife will wear and tear and look all dingy and beat up and not used up and everything. Basically, you can take it to Chris Reeve, and for free, he will bring this knife. You take the knife to him, and he'll give it back to you, practically brand new. I am not kidding you. I can honestly say that I've had that process done, and it is a lot of fun to have the knife come back looking brand new and unused. So because of the spot treatment, there's no need to safe clean a Chris Reeve knife. It would just be too stupid because he'll take care of the knife for as long as you have it. I mean, you don't have to have 6 Chris Reeve knives. You have to keep in mind I'm a collector, so you don't need 6 of these knives. You only need just one. One of his knives for the rest of your life will last you an entire lifetime. I mean, the guy his spot treatment is undeniably fantastic. As long as you don't use his knives to pry open paint cans, you're in great shape. Everyday normal use, everyday normal hard use, no problem. Once the knife gets all beat up, take it into Chris Reeve, send it in. You only pay for the shipping. It comes back practically brand new. And, you know, what can you say? Can we say that about zero tolerance? Probably not. I mean, obviously you could, you know, if something on your knife is broken at one point, yeah, they'll fix it, but they're not going to do the spot treatment. They're not going to bring this knife back to brand new quality, and that is what Chris Reeve promises to do for the rest of the life of the knife, unless, of course, you anodize the knife. Once you anodize the knife, you can't go back to him anymore. He's not going to bother to he will not bring this back to brand new. It's just not going to happen. So you're taking a risk when you're anodizing a knife. And I realized that when I got these done, which is kind of sad because I actually do use the aluminums on a lot. You can tell that it's a well-used knife. Yeah, you can pretty well tell that it's a well-used knife. So I'm kind of sorry that sorry that I did that, but I'm also sorry that I didn't do that because it looks brilliant to me. I love it in this color. So yeah, Chris Reeve knives. Definitely check them out. I'm not saying buy one, but I'm definitely saying check them out if you're lucky enough to do that. Obviously, I'm not sure if you could do a thing where I'm pretty sure you could probably buy one of his knives and return them if you don't like it. But definitely you should consider checking it out. Hear what all the huff and puff is about. Experience this knife once and for all, because it is a landmark in your knife collecting if you ever get this far. I never expected to have as many Chris Reeve knives, but yeah, I wound up becoming a fan, and actually right now I'm trying to find a T-lock if I could find one. I'm not going to go overboard and pay $1,000 for one, but I certainly do want to have it in this collection of Chris Reeve. So yeah, so this is Omar the Knife Shark Guy, just trying to open up a little discussion on Chris Reeve knives. I hope this video was somewhat interesting for you and not me blabbing on. Please leave your comments below. Just don't say anything insulting, but if you feel I might have missed anything, or if you have any comments you want to add, please feel free. I want to hear everybody's thoughts on this subject of Chris Reeve living in his own world, making knives the way he makes them, and not comparing himself to any other knife company. So this is Omar the Knife Sharp Guy signing off, hoping you'll definitely find a Chris Reeve sharp art piece in your collection. Take it easy, guys. Stay safe, and hopefully this coronavirus thing will end soon. Thank you so much for watching, and God bless.